Class 10 Biology, Chapter Heredity and Evolution, Video number 3. The topics covered in this video includes dihybrid cross and the conclusion made by Mendel on the basis of this cross and how genes control expression of traits. A dihybrid cross is a cross that is done to study the inheritance of two pairs of factors for two characters. Say for example, let's take shape and the color of seed. There are two characters, and if suppose a cross is being done to study the inheritance of these two, that is shape and color in this case, then that will be said to be as a dihybrid cross. Or it can be, say, if suppose a cross is done to study the inheritance of height and say shape of the seed. Okay, so two characters we are taking. So that's that kind of cross which is done is called as a dihybrid cross. So let's take an example. Say the plant producing round and green seeds which are round and green, when they were crossed with the plants producing wrinkled and yellow seeds. Okay, and that too, Mendel, when he did this experiment, he took two breeds, that is pure lines of these varieties, and pure breeds, they are the ones who, whenever they are left for self pollination, they'll be showing the same trait generation after generation. So when he crossed these, as you all know that the round shape and the yellow color, these are dominant traits, whereas green and wrinkle, these are recessive traits. So the next generation, as Mendel also thought, because he had already done his monohybrid cross, so he knew it quite well, the next generation, the seeds that will be produced will be round and yellow. So let's see how was a cross done. So here this is the cross that shows the parental type, where the plants producing round and green seeds are being crossed with the plants producing wrinkled and yellow. And since these are pure lines, the genotype, when we talk about the genetic makeup, since a plant is a pure breed, for round, the genotype of the parent will be having two factors for round, and for green it will be two factors for green. Okay, then for wrinkle there will be two factors for wrinkle, that is small r, and for yellow it will be two factors for the yellow color, right? And as already told to you, that dominant traits are always expressed by capital letter. So round and yellow will be with capital letter, whereas green and wrinkle it's going to be with small letter. So this is what he did. He crossed. Now, since it is sexual reproduction, it's going to involve gametes. And from the conclusion that he made in the monohybrid cross, it's quite clear. He said that the factors are present in pairs in an individual, but when gametes are formed, the gametes get only one factor for each character. For each character. This is what he said, right? So for the shape, that is round, in the individual there are two factors for round shape, but when the gamete will be formed, there will be only one factor for round will be sent to the gamete. The chromosomal number you've learned in the previous chapter, that it becomes half, the amount of genetic material become half when gametes are formed. So of the pair, only one goes into the gamete, and for the color, that is green, there will be only one factor which will be moving into the gamete. So all the gametes that are produced by the parent, which is producing round and green seeds, all these gametes will carry a factor for round and a factor for green. Similarly, the parent, which is a pure line for wrinkled and yellow seeds, when it produces gametes, all its gametes will carry the factor for wrinkle shape and yellow color. Now again, as he stated in his monohybrid cross, these factors which get separated at the time of gamete formation, they will pair up again after fertilization. And fertilization is random, but here, since all the gametes have the same genotype, so when these gametes fuse, you find that for shape, when the pairing occurs, there'll be a factor for round and a factor for wrinkled shape, and since round is a dominant trait, the plant will be producing seeds which will be round, right? Then for shape, when pairing occurs, there will be a factor for yellow color and a factor for green color, right? And since yellow is a dominant trait, the plant will be yellow. So here all the plants will be producing yellow seeds. So all the plants of the F1 progeny, they produce seeds which were round and yellow. Then what did he do? After this, he left the F1 progeny for self-breeding. Okay, as he had done in case of the monohybrid crosses. So he started with crossbreeding, but then F1 progeny, the moment he got, he left the plants for self-breeding. So let's see what he got in the next generation. So in the F2 generation, when you see, he had, when he did his cross, he, in the next generation, apart from the dominant and the recessive traits which were expressed, he also got some new combination also. So he got in the next generation, that is F2 generation, where when the F1 generation plants, when they were allowed for self-breeding, he got plants which produce round and yellow seeds, wrinkled and green. These were the parental type, right? But apart from this, he got two more new combination, that is round and green and wrinkled and yellow. And this, that is round and yellow, round and green, wrinkled and yellow, and wrinkled and green, these traits he got in the ratio of 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. So this is what he had got. Have a look at the Punnett square that's given over here. You can see here, these are the, like, because F1 progeny, it had the genetic makeup of capital R, small r, and a capital Y and a small y, right? So both, because it's self-pollination, so both and male and female will have the same genetic makeup. That is a factor for round and a factor for round, a factor for wrinkle, for shape, and a factor for yellow color, and a factor for green color for the color, right? For the green, yellow color, right? For round and yellow. Now, when when it was allowed for self-breeding, it's again sexual reproduction, so gametes will be formed. So the parent having this type of combination, that is capital R, small r, capital Y, small y, will be producing four different types of gametes, right? Because you've learned that when gametes are formed, the chromosomal number becomes half, or the factors which are present in pairs, the factors which are present in pair will get separated at the time of gamete formation. So what will be the possible gamete form? There may be a separation of this way, that is R and capital Y. Then there can be another combination as capital R and small y. Then the third kind of combination can be a small r and a capital Y, and a gamete producing small r, having small r, that is a factor for wrinkle, and a factor for green color. So these are the four different possible gametes that will be formed by each of the male and the female part. Okay, so these are the factors. And what did he say? He said that the factors, they get separated at the time of gamete formation, means a gamete gets only one factor for each character, and these gametes then again fuse and pair up. When they fuse, the factors pair up again after fertilization. So when this particular gamete fuses, then you get a combination of this kind. Okay, a gamete can fuse, these two gametes can fuse, or there may be a fusion of these two gametes, and when we go on doing all the cross, we get 16 different possibilities. And when we see their phenotypes, looking into the genetic makeup, you find you've got round and yellow, so you have got traits like round and yellow. You also have got round and green traits, right? And then you've got wrinkled and yellow traits, and then you've got wrinkled and green. And when you count this, you get this in the ratio of 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. So this ratio, that is the ratio of 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1, this is called as the dihybrid ratio. Okay, a dihybrid ratio is the ratio of F2 generation or F2 progeny when a dihybrid cross is done and the F1 generation plants is left for self-breeding. So monohybrid, I've told you, it is 3 is to 1, and the dihybrid ratio is 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. And when these, from looking into this new combinations that we see, a conclusion that is made is that we had taken round and the seeds which were round in shape, and they were green in color, right? And the other one was wrinkled shaped plant seeds with which were yellow in color. And but then we got four different possibilities, right? So we got four. So this shows that the shape of the seed was not linked to the color of the seed. Had they been linked, then these two features would have been inherited together generation after generation. So because of this new combinations that were formed, it shows that the traits like color and shape, they are not linked. They are present on maybe on separate, they're present actually on separate chromosomes, and that's why they were not inherited together. Okay, so here this is another example that is taken, that suppose if a plant producing round and yellow seed is crossed with a plant producing wrinkled and green seeds, then the gametes that are formed, you can see here what are the gametes. The gamete will have a factor for round and a factor for yellow, and this parent will produce gametes which will be having a factor for wrinkled and a factor for green. When the gametes fuse, as you know that the factors again pair up, so the F1 progeny will be having a genetic makeup as a factor for round and a factor for wrinkle, a factor for yellow and a factor for green. And since round and yellow are the dominant traits, the progeny will be producing seeds which will be round and yellow. This will be the F1 progeny. And if the F1 progeny again it is allowed for self breeding, again we get the same combination as round and yellow, round and yellow, then you have got wrinkled and yellow, round and green, and wrinkled and green, again in the ratio of 9:3:3:1. So this ratio is what is called as the dihybrid ratio. There's another example that can be taken. In this example we take two other character. One is the height of the plant, another is the shape of the seed. So suppose plants which are tall, pure lines, that is pure breeds or pure parents, which are tall and are producing round seeds, when they are crossed with short plants which are producing wrinkled seeds, as already stated, the next generation or the F1 generation, all the plants that are produced will be tall plants with round seeds. This is the F1 progeny. Now, when the F1 progeny will be allowed to self breed, you can see here the F1 progeny. This is the genetic makeup of the F1 progeny. So this F1 progeny, when it is allowed to self-breed, obviously the male and the female part of the progeny will be having of the plant will be having the same genetic makeup, because it's a self-breeding or self-pollination. So gametes will be involved because it's sexual reproduction. So there will be four different possibilities of gametes form. Okay, because of the two for each character, two factors for each character, the gamete will be getting only one factor. So there will be gametes with tall and round factors, tall and wrinkled factors, short and round factor, and a factor for shortness and wrinkled shape. Okay, and so four possible gametes are formed. And then what did he say? That these factors, when they get separated at the time of gamete formation, they pair up again after fertilization, and fertilization is random. So the fertilization can be this, it can be the second way, this gamete can fuse with this one, and it can also fuse with this one. And if you go on doing with all the crosses or all the fusions, possible fusions, you get plants with tall and round seeded plants, again tall and round, tall and round, tall and round. You just go on doing, you get all these possibilities, and when you just sort it out, you find 1 2 3, you find 4 tall and round, tall and round, again a tall, and when you count the number, you get tall and round as 9, then tall and wrinkle seeded plants as 3, then short and plants which produce round seeds in the ratio of 3, and short plants with wrinkle seeds again in the ratio of 1. So we get the ratio as 9:3:3:1, which is the dihybrid ratio. Okay, so from this Mendel had made a conclusion that inheritance of a pair of factor for one character is independent of the inheritance of a pair of factor for another character. Now, what does this mean? We have already learned that these factors which are present as a pair in an individual, they'll be again getting separated at the time of gamete formation, and they pair up again for upon fertilization. So according to this, it says that for a particular character, the separation of the factors at the time of gamete formation and pairing up of the factors after fertilization for a particular character is independent of another pair of factor for another character. So this law is what is called as a law of independent assortment, right? So that's about the dihybrid cross. Now coming on to that how genes control expression of traits. Mendel, he had made use of a term factor. When he had done his studies, he was not aware of that what are genes, chromosomes and all. So it was quite later that like genes were discovered and the structure of chromosome was known, and it was found that it is actually the chromosomes are made up of DNA, right? So what Mendel had called as factors, they are now known as genes. So now let us see how these factors or genes control expression of traits. As already learned in the previous chapter, we know that the DNA, it is called as a blueprint because it has got information for making proteins, right? It's making protein, and these proteins, they decide the body design. This was learned in the previous chapter, right? So, and a section of DNA that provides information for a particular protein, that is what is called as a gene. Okay, so since gene has information for making proteins, and these proteins that are made by using the information of the gene, these proteins will may be acting as some enzyme, and these enzymes, they may take part in various biochemical reactions where some products may be formed, and depending upon the amount of product formed, a particular trait may or may not be expressed. Okay, so a particular trait will be expressed on the basis of amount of the product form. So here, as you can see in this is a DNA, a segment of DNA, which is the gene, and this, using this information which is contained in the DNA, proteins are made, and proteins, they control the expression of characters of an organism. So let us take a trait, say a character as height. We have already discussed that plants may either be tall or short. Now height of the plant is because of the growth hormone. So you've got the growth hormone like auxins and all, which help in the growth of the plant. Now if suppose a plant is tall, that means that it's producing more of, if suppose more of growth hormone is made, the plant is going to be tall. If suppose the amount of growth hormone that is made is quite less, okay, if the growth hormone that is made is quite less, then definitely the plant is going to be short. And we have already discussed that these different traits, tallness and the shortness or dwarfness, is because of the gene, tallness gene for tallness and gene for dwarfness. So now how these genes are controlling the expression of traits. Now the gene for tallness, this has the information for making a protein. So it, using the information for gene for tallness, a protein is made, and this protein which is made, look here, this protein that is made will then be acting like a enzyme. An enzyme, since it's a tallness is a dominant trait, so this particular protein that is made using the information will be a complete protein. It's going to be a complete protein, and as a protein is a complete protein, it when it acts like an enzyme, the enzyme will be a efficient or a functional enzyme. And this particular enzyme that is made using the information contained in the gene for tallness, since it is an efficient or functional enzyme, the biochemical reaction that it mediates will be done in a proper way, and that particular reaction, it will be an enzyme which will be important for the biochemical reaction that is required for synthesis of growth hormone. So this, because the enzyme is a complete or functional protein, this will be mediating the reaction in a proper way, and as a result more and more growth hormone will be made. And if suppose the amount of growth hormone is made more, then the plant is definitely going to be tall. But in case of the gene for shortness or dwarfness, what we find, this gene for shortness or dwarfness is an altered gene. It's an alteration of the tallness. This is a recessive gene, you all know that. right? So why it is why when this is present in pair the plant becomes shorter? It's because the information that is contained in this particular gene, you can see this is an alteration. Okay, if suppose this is an alteration, you find there's a difference between the original gene and this altered gene, which is a gene for shortness. So because it's an alteration, by making use of the information of this gene, when proteins are made, the proteins may be incomplete. Now if suppose the protein is incomplete, then when these protein takes since this protein is incomplete, when they are used to make enzyme, the enzyme that will be made will be less efficient, non-functional, or so it may be either less efficient or non-functional or less functional. And if it is less efficient or non-functional, definitely the biochemical reaction which this particular gene is involved in, that biochemical reaction will not go properly, and so the amount of growth hormone which will be made will be quite less. And if suppose the amount of growth hormone that is made is quite less, the plant is definitely going to be short. So in this way the genes control expression of trait. The dominant genes, they are able to express themselves because they make complete proteins which act as fully functional enzymes, and as a result of which the chemical reactions that they mediate, they will be occurring properly. Good amount of product is made. In this case it is the growth hormone, and the plant shows a dominant trait. And the recessive gene that makes incomplete protein. Incomplete protein means less efficient or non-functional enzyme, and so the amount of product that is formed when this enzyme mediates a particular biochemical reaction, that product will be quite less, and so that particular trait, that is height as tall, will not be expressed. The plant in this case will be shorter, right? So what we had discussed, like the an individual can have three types of genotypes for a case of height. It can either be that the individual may have two factors for tallness, or a factor for tallness and a factor for dwarfness, or it may be two factors for shortness. So when there are two factors or two genes for tallness, it's definitely going to make a complete enzyme, and so the plant is going to be tall. If suppose there is a factor for tallness and a factor for shortness, since there is a factor for tallness already present, there will be complete enzyme made. This factor for shortness will be ineffective. There will be a complete enzyme made, and so the plant again will be tall. But if suppose the genetic makeup, because it's an individual which produces or which shows a expresses the trait. So if suppose the individual has got two factors for shortness, a factor in this case, a factor, two factors, too small t. So since both the genes are this altered gene, so the enzyme that this particular in this case the enzyme that is made using the information of this altered gene, this enzyme will be non-functional or less efficient. So less growth hormone will be made in this case, and as a result the plant will be dwarf. So in this way the genes, they control expression of trait. Now let's once again recall what Mendel had done. He had made the dihybrid cross, and on the basis of dihybrid cross he concluded that inheritance of a pair of factor for one character is independent of the pair inheritance of a pair of factor for another character, right? He made this, and that shows that like when we take the example of um, shape and the say shape or and the height of the plant, here it means that the inheritance of height is independent of inheritance of shape, and that's why we got new combination also. And this suggests that these genes which are meant for height, or the gene which is meant for the shape of the seed, or the gene that is meant for color of the seed, or say flower color, they are all present on separate chromosome. Because had they been present on a single long chain of chromosome, then this particular mechanism of inheritance would have not worked. The shape and the color would have been inherited together, but this does not happen. It's because those genes, they are present on separate chromosomes. They are present on separate independent pieces which are called as the chromosomes. Okay, and in case of sexually reproducing organism, because there are two parents involved, both the parents contribute equal amount of genetic material, that is a DNA. Okay, so both of the parents are contributing equal amount of genetic material, means for each trait both of the parent will contribute a copy of the same gene, right? So in case of a pea plant, the pea plant will have two sets of all gene. Like in our case also, for each and every trait that we have got two sets of a gene. Okay, one may be expressed and other may remain expressed. It all depends upon whether the gene that we have inherited from our parent, whether they are present, whether they are dominant or recessive. So that's about the topic, that is dihybrid cross and how genes control expression of traits.